All right, and we are rolling. So you're saying that some people have issues with kind of transitioning, and they're not okay from moving to a place like Delhi and Delhi to Bombay.
So I guess it's less about, I wouldn't call this issues. I think there's an expectation that my career should be perfectly on track. I should get the promotions that I need. All of that should happen, but I shouldn't have to move from location A to location B.
Yeah.
Because I'm committed to location A. That's where I was born. That's where I studied. That's where I went to university. That's where my friends are, family, everything. I'm married here. I live here. You want me to uproot myself and move to Bombay,
Yeah,
or somewhere else in India. And I'll tell you why I'm saying India specifically. Even though you're giving me a bigger opportunity and you're saying, look, this is a bigger job, this is a bigger role, this is a larger business.
yeah,
And I've seen through my career lots of people who just say no, but then when it comes up for promotions and when it comes up for, what's the next move, it's like, I want it here, I want it in Delhi.
right.
Give it to me, because I can't make adjustments, but I expect you to make adjustments for me. I'm so good, I'm so capable, I'm all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And the people who are willing to uproot themselves and move,
Yeah,
eventually, I believe, get ahead because they're flexible enough to say, well, yeah, we got to make some adjustments. Sometimes it's couples that will live apart. Sometimes it's people quit their jobs and say, you know what, I'm going to move with my spouse.
yeah,
And we'll move the kids to a new school.
yeah,
Except for Indians, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of countries that are less developed. The moment you tell them, hey, we have an assignment in New York or Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong, they are willing to up and go.
yeah.
Then all of this, the reluctance to move because of personal considerations goes away.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
There's so much there because at one level, like people move. So first of all, to your point of, because I want to stick to that. You said like people who move around, we tend to do better than people who don't. They've got more skin in the game, I guess. They've got more. Yeah. They've kind of moved away from family, friends. You've been through it, I'm guessing. Like, so you know the experience of going to a new place and like not having any ties there, and then kind of finding those ties, and then you're there for work, and that kind of plays into a huge thing.
Yeah, but then we've built wonderful relationships wherever we've lived with people we 20 years ago are still friends.
Yeah.
Our children have grown up in different places, different schools, and I think that's really benefited them.
Yeah.
Because they're far more adaptable and flexible in their thinking.
Yeah.
So also I think it has a little bit to do with the ability to take that risk.
Yeah.
And so if I'm risk averse, I don't want to move locations, unless of course I'm getting, paid not in rupees, but a different currency that's attractive enough. I'd go to Africa, I'd go to Ghana, I'd go to Zimbabwe, I'd go to, Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because I'm suddenly multiplying, what the company is going to pay me there because it's a difficult location, whatever might be the reason. I'm willing to take a risk then. So it's a question of then. So my risk-taking ability is linked to the monetary consideration.
Of course.
Then I'm not so bothered about the inconvenience, the kids moving school, moving a different country, different language. All of that seems to go away.
Right.
So sometimes within the country, you don't seem to get that same
entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, I would also say like your standard of living, at least earlier, maybe like 15 years back, was so different across different cities in India. Like, you didn't have like tier 2 and tier 3 cities weren't at the level they are at now. Like, for example, like if you're in a Bombay, like a Pune is a legitimate solution to it. Like if you're fine with the traffic and the kind of bikes and things like that, then it's actually, you can move to a different city which is not a metropolitan, get a decent standard of living, and get a decent school for your kids and like everything else without having to give up
Sure.
on a lot. So now that's becoming a viable solution, which I don't was it earlier, like maybe 20 years back?
It wasn't, but then again, I've been to places that I had to look up on the map when they told me, "Oh, we're moving you to this location." I didn't even know where it was.
Yeah.
How do I get there? Are there any schools there?
Right.
My son was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
Is he going to find a school there? Oh, yeah, yeah, there's a convent school. I'm sure they'll get around and. But you go and then figure it out. And we had a great time.
Yeah.
We loved the place. The school wasn't too bad. And it was a really small, it was an overgrown village
Yeah.
somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. And we still have very fond memories of being there. And so then the question is, why do I have to be in a metro? What's the metro giving me that smaller towns don't? And you're absolutely right. Today, in terms of sort of what's out there in smaller towns, it's not very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pune Pune is really perfectly acceptable. But I'm saying there are smaller places.
Yeah. Like Nagpur is viable as well. I know some people who would have moved to
Nagpur,
Nashik.
I could work in Nasik.
Yeah.
And if I want to party, I'll go on the weekends to Bombay and I'll party.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about, it's a mindset thing.
Definitely a mindset thing, because I was in college and I was really confused about whether I want to move around for my studies and like for my career and everything else, because psychology, industrial organizational psychology, does not have much space in we can basically be in human resources to a very large extent, in a general role, but not so much in a very specific role. So one of these mentors came by to talk to us, and I asked him, I said, do you suggest I move? Because this person was accomplished, been to places, written a few books. And I asked them, what do you suggest I do? He said, well, do you want the opportunity or do you want a comfortable life? Because you can't have both. You have to decide which one out of those two you want. And at that point in time, like I was wrestling with it, but then I got okay with the idea of moving around and things. Do you, in your coaching practice, do you meet a lot of people who kind of moved around and have to adjust to a new environment and things like that?
Not too many. A lot of the people I coach are, I'd call them the metro kids. They want to be in a large city, and then the senior execs I coach are at a stage in life when their kids are going to university, and so they need to be in a big location and a large city, all of that. So I haven't really had anyone come up with this challenge to say, how can I still live in a small place and still have a successful career.
Right.
There is somebody who runs a not-for-profit who I coach, and he's very keen to actually go back to the state he's from and work at the grassroots to push the agenda of that not-for-profit. But that's an exception. He's really, that's because that's what he's doing. That's the sort of. But most other people are, city slickers. They want to be there in the big city. They want to have their fun.
Yeah.
All of that. So I haven't had too many people.
I understand. Yeah, nobody glorifies like going to a small town, unless like only Swadesh, I guess you can think of that, the movie. Nobody glorifies going to a small town, migrating to it, and then like doing something there. But I
think it's just, again, it's a mindset thing. It's not like there isn't opportunity out there.
Yeah,
it isn't like you can't go make a life out there.
Yeah, just to that point, like I know that there are a few industrial complexes around India, like Nashik was one, and now Himachal Pradesh and things like that are actually offering tax windows to a lot of entrepreneurs who set up industry there. So there's a lot of like opportunity available with states who are willing to do that as well. So that's something which is available as well.
Yeah, but a lot of that is manufacturing, and I guess a lot of young people today aren't really getting into manufacturing anymore. It's more the digital age. It's more, the virtual space. It's more about um, so large industries will get set up. They'll get the workforce there, but I think for them to hire people and get senior managers or people from good schools to go and live in locations like that
Yeah.
is a tough one.
Hmm.
It's just that people don't want to make that shift.
Yeah. And with reference to your coaching work, right?
Hmm?
What are the usual, like, the common things that people kind of approach you for, saying, this is something that I need help with at this stage in my career?
Um, so, firstly, coaching is not work for me.
Okay.
Um, I coach because I enjoy the
Right.
process. Um, most people, I've got there's a backstory to
Please.
my sort of thinking around, why coaching is suddenly becoming relevant.
Yes.
So if you took a country like India, we maybe 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we all lived in joint families. And there were lots of people at home. And your parents clearly were not approachable from a advice consultation perspective, but you had someone in the family who'd be that sounding board, that go-to person,
Yeah.
who you could go have a conversation with.
Yeah.
As sort of families became more and more nuclear and started to just live in different places and all of that, the people that you started interacting with and reaching out to were really in the same space as you were. They were having very similar challenges. The pressures at work, managing everything, all of that. And that connect that these individuals had with someone, with a little more experience to be able to guide them went away. The second thing that happened was, when I was growing up, I wasn't competing with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Whether it was a photograph that I took, or whether it was something that I did at school, or well, maybe my neighbors got to know, my classmates got to know, friends and family got to know, but that's about it.
Right.
Today, most people well, loosely the millennials, are growing up in a world where everyone's competing with everybody else. It doesn't matter whether the guy lives in Hungary and I'm in India and I'm in completely different situation.
Yeah.
I look at that photograph the guy posts on Instagram and I'm thinking, wow, what did he do? Why does he have so many likes?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did a pretty similar thing. I was in Himachal a week ago and I took this photograph. It's as good and I get 20 likes.
Yeah.
This guy's got 20,000.
Yeah.
And must be something wrong with me, my photography, what am I missing here?
Yeah. 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 That's
And
just to add to that, like, there are so many examples of excellent work, like amazing work, and
correct.
there's very seldom a roadmap of where to get there, like how to get there.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to figure out what are the action steps that I need to take to get to that level of achievement or mastery.
Sure. So then I look at classmates. I look at people who were in school with me. I look at people who went to university with me, and they're on LinkedIn and they're posting stuff about whatever. I met so and so, and we had a cool chat over dinner or something. I'm thinking, wow, look at where this guy's gone. He's gone places. Look at me. How come I don't get these opportunities to go have dinner with all these hot shots? There must be something this guy is doing differently. And so all this pressure is building.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm ending up with this sense of dissatisfaction with my life.
Yeah.
I just don't it doesn't seem good enough. My relationships, my career, my interests. And because it doesn't seem enough, I'm dissatisfied, and then I'm feeling, how can I make this better? I want all of it now.
Right.
I want a great career. I want a wonderful boss. I want to have a great hobby.
Yeah.
Um, I want to travel. I want great relationships. I want money. I want it all now,
Yeah.
because I can read up on hundreds of people who seem to have it now.
Yeah.
If they have it, why can't I? So again, you go back and this keeps sort of working in your mind
Hmm.
to the point where you start forgetting, where you stop forgetting where is it you originally wanted to go.
Yeah.
Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Um, so I remember early, well, I wouldn't say early, I'd say about 15 years ago
Yeah.
in my career, I told myself I can't take this anymore. I can't be worried about who got promoted, didn't got promoted, who got a larger
Yeah.
bonus than I did. I'm dropping out of the rat race.
Yeah.
I do not want to be a part of it because it's just making me unhappy. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
The only guy impacted is myself, and that's telling on my work. That's telling on the way I treat my colleagues. It's that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita actually, and
Uh-huh.
it's amazing. The firstly, the some of the lessons in it are timeless. You can use it forever.
Yep.
And the one thing which it said, which is super important nowadays, is, and it's really hard to do. I've been ever since I read it 2 3 months back. I've been doing it. It's basically saying your responsibility is to your work. Your
Yeah.
responsibility is not towards the result of your work, which you
Yeah.
can like, which is fine. You can use the result of your work for reflective purposes. That's fine. I think the way I think it would be okay with that. But just doing that is so difficult because so often I'm working for the on the expectation of getting something back, not for the work
Correct.
itself. And it's so
Yeah.
difficult to do. It's extremely hard when you've got social media putting out these things saying, "Oh, this guy got this guy got that." This person got a new promotion, things like that. So every time I look out, I
Yeah.
see materialism. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, why not work for that level of materialism?
Correct.
And then you're thinking, well, if you want great results or if you want to be a great human being, then you can't look at that level of materialism because that's not really going to
Yeah.
be effective. And that
Yeah.
conflict is huge. And you help people through that conflict.
Correct. So, what you're saying is absolutely right. So the Gita basically says that you have a right to action.
Yeah.
You do not have a right to the fruits of that action.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you become inactive. It doesn't mean you do nothing, because if you do nothing, then you're not going to get anything at all anyway. At the same time, act in whatever you believe is in your best interests, and the outcome of that will be the whatever it is. And what I've found with as I've coached people is, it's not that human beings are not aware. Everyone's aware. Everyone knows in deep down where they stand in life, what is it they need to do. So I was once coaching someone who said to me, I need to be coached because I don't drink enough water. Can you coach me to drink more water? So I said, sure. Um, and this person said, I know drinking water is good for me.
Yeah.
I know it's, all of that stuff. So it's not like I don't know the facts. I just can't drink enough water. When I get to work,
Yeah.
I'm so caught up with work, I forget to drink water. I will drink juices that are filled with sugar. I will drink Cokes. I will whatever, rated drinks, but I just don't drink water. And so we started talking about how do you drink water? What's the things you can do? Um, And the process of coaching really is not about me making suggestions. I don't.
Right.
I'm not giving advice here.
Yeah.
I'm just asking you questions.
Hmm.
So if you said, I don't drink enough water, I'm going to say, why don't you drink enough water?
Hmm.
And you say, I don't know. I just don't get the time to drink water.
Yeah.
And then you say, why don't you get the time? I'm so caught up. When I get to work, I'm just like running from one meeting to another meeting. And it's like the whole day goes by in this blur. And the end of the day, I realize I haven't had any water.
Yeah.
Why does the day go by in a blur? Maybe because I'm overwhelmed at work. There's like so many things happening, and maybe I need to plan better. Maybe I don't know. So okay, so how can you organize your day better?
Right.
And then so you keep drilling down, and this is not just about work. It's about a lot of very personal things that will start to emerge about somebody when you just question them, one question after another. It's just why.
Yeah.
Why this? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit like peeling the onion.
Hmm.
So when I sit down and I start a coaching sort of assignment or conversation with somebody, you just uncover the first layer and the second layer and the third layer till you get to the core of that person. It can take a long time. It can take, depending on how much somebody opens up and how much they trust you.
Yeah.
Because this is a relationship of trust.
Yeah.
It can sometimes take a while, but you just keep going deeper and deeper until you understand where's the core value that's getting impacted here. What's happening to this person? And
Right.
as coaches, we are not. I mean, a lot of people do train to be. A lot of trained psychiatrists and psychologists do coach, but for a lot of us, we are not trained for this. So we're trained to be coaches. We are certified as coaches.
Yeah.
But it's not like I've studied psychology, so I'm understanding the mindset of this person and applying the science to it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just having a conversation.
Right.
The reason it works best in talking to strangers is because I'm coming to the table with no judgment at all.
Yeah.
I'm saying, hi, Shivam, how are you? And we start talking.
Right.
I know nothing about you. I don't know anything about your thought process. And that's why as coaches, we do not coach people we know well or family.
Makes sense.
Because the moment you step into the conversation, you've already got your own thoughts around, oh, I know why she said this or he said this, because that's the background and happened 5 years ago, and you
there's
get
too much
into this
baggage
your
involved.
own judgments.
Yeah, there can be a lot of baggage involved. I just had a question about your input, the level of input that you put in. So you said you ask mostly questions.
Yeah.
Is there any instances in which you would say, where you would give someone input, say, hey man, do this, or, I think you should think about, or
No.
Not at all?
No. I will guide the person, as in, my questions will be in a way that will help this person unlock their own brains.
Got it.
And come up with solutions on their own. Sometimes especially when I do corporate assignments, I will have somebody say, this is the challenge I'm facing at work. This is what's happened. Have you faced a similar situation?
Yeah.
And I could say, yeah, well, I did once upon a time in my career. And then this person could say, how did you deal with it? At which point I will tell them, do you want me to take off my coaching hat and wear my consulting hat? Because I'm happy to do that.
So you're putting the option in their hands, saying, what would you like to do?
What would you like to do?
Right.
And if the person says, yeah, I actually need you to give me advice on this. This is, I want to handle the situation. It's really bothering me. Then it's not a coaching session anymore. I will then be a consultant. I will give them advice based on my situation, when it happened in my company, and why it worked for me or didn't work for me. Um, what could be the pitfalls, all of that standard consulting conversation,
Right.
which is not a coaching conversation. Coaching is also kind of different from, so I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm not,
Hmm.
if you talk to me about aviation or something, I could have my views, but I'm not an expert on the subject. I'm not an expert on anything.
Hmm.
So if you start expect if the conversation veers around as saying, oh, so in your professional knowledge, what do you think about this industry or whatever, I'm going to say, well, my objective here is to help you think about something. So you tell me, what do you think about this industry?
Got it.
Should I be working in aviation or should I be working in pharma? Or what do you think? Where should I be working? And my answer would be, I don't know. Where do you want to work?
Got it.
When you say work, what does it mean for you? What's important for you at work?
Hmm. Yeah, that's very counterintuitive, because a lot of times when people approach these kinds of conversations, it seems that they would come in with a please help me make the decision by making the decision for me.
Correct.
A lot of people might have that kind of approach, saying, no, listen, I want someone to think through this decision for me. And there's a difference here. You're saying, no,
Correct.
the ultimate choice of making the decision is yours, and my role is to kind of help you navigate that through bringing awareness
Yeah.
to your senses.
Correct. Because so there's a couple of things. One is, how do you trigger that self awareness?
Yeah.
How do you make somebody? So if I were to tell you, Shivam, I think this is what you should do, it's probably going to be ineffective because I'm telling you what to do.
Hmm.
If I asked you, Shivam, what would you like to do? And you say, I think this is what I want to do. Wonderful. Why do you want to do this? And you say, oh, I think this is why I want to do this. And what does that give you? Oh, it gives me a great deal of happiness. All right.
Right.
So why haven't you done it all this while? And you say, I don't know. I thought about it for so many years. I just haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Would you want to do something about it? Yeah, I want to do something about it. Wonderful. Where do you want to start? I'll start next week. Okay. How will you know that you've started doing what you want to do? I'm going to keep a little log. I'll keep a journal. I'm going to start writing down in there how many hours did I spend doing this. Uh, a lot of it just comes down then to emotions and all of that. But the fact is, you can sit there for years and do nothing, and your life's not going to change. It's when you take the action is when your life's going to change. I'm lazy.
Hmm.
A lot of people come back with this. I procrastinate.
Yeah.
I know I have to take this decision. I can't just get myself to take it.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask them, so what's stopping you? And very often people would say, I don't know. I really don't know. So, and then I probably ask them, tell me whatever you know. What do
Right.
you know?
Right.
I know that if I, whatever, then they'll get, because it's triggering that whole thought process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I'm walking with you. We walk into a forest, we get to a fork, and you turn around to me and you say, Pradeep, let's take the one on the right because I think that's a quicker way to get to where we want to go.
Yeah.
I'll say, sure, let's go, Shivam. And then we walk a couple of miles, and then you say, this is getting into dense forest. I'm not sure if this was the right way.
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask you, so what do you want to do? Do you want to keep going?
Hmm.
No, I think let's turn around and go back, and then we go left. Sure, let's turn around, walk back, and go left.
So, I mean, there may be instances in that analogy where, just to take that analogy a little bit further,
Sure.
there may be an
Yeah.
instance where you might know the way. You're certain of the way forward, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I always knew that the left is the easier way to go.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. I always knew that.
Okay.
But I am not going to tell you, let's go left.
And why is that?
I might suggest through questions to trigger your thought process about, I might say, why are you choosing right over left?
Right.
And you might say, well, this path looks wider and it looks like maybe more people have walked. I don't know, whatever. It's looking so pretty at the end.
Yeah.
Do you want to explore? Yeah, I want to explore. Okay, let's go.
Correct.
It's self exploration. It's like self awareness. And people. I've sort of worked with people where they become new versions of themselves.
Now,
I'm so and so 2.0.
yeah, and that I can only imagine people walking, because I've had a few of these coaching relationships, with people, and I know that when I walk away from that I feel empowered. I feel like, holy shit, I can do this. Oh yeah, this is the way forward, and it's like it's only deeper because it's a part of me that I'm certain of. It's not something external to me. Why should someone go?
So let me finish that thought.
Sorry, yeah, go for it.
When you say, I've had the coaching conversation, at that time I feel empowered.
Yeah.
The challenge lies in the consistency. As coaches, we don't work with somebody beyond a certain period of time because you don't want a dependency.
Right.
And you want that person to wean themselves off.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody I used to coach in the UK, introduced by a friend, his friend, who I used to coach. So it's just word of mouth stuff.
Yeah.
And he's moved on to go study and do a master's in business in Europe, after working for a number of years in the UK. And he was telling me about his class fellows in that MBA school. He says, I'm so sorted because they're asking us, why are you doing this? What's your objective? What's your purpose in life? Where do you want to go? And he says, because I had the benefit of the coaching conversations with you, I know exactly why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to go, what's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
And my classmates are struggling with trying to answer that. So his point to me was, do you think you can coach more MBA students and help them figure out, in their own heads, how they can plan their lives better? And I asked him, I said, what's the risk of you going back to your 1.0 version? You're in a new place, a new country, new set of people.
Yeah.
What's the chance that you go back to being 1.0? And he says, that's done. 1.0 is gone.
Yeah.
I cannot ever go
You're
back
not
to
going
being
back to
who
that.
I was.
Yeah.
I was terrible in my relationships with people. I was insecure. I was, I didn't open up enough. I always felt I can't share anything with anyone, whatever, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, sorry, go back to you were asking me something else.
Yeah, it skipped my mind. But as you were talking about this, I can't go back to I can't go back to this or that. So I read a little bit about coaching. So
Sure.
There's this one book. So this is the original book on coaching. Was this guy called Timothy something? And he wrote the book called The Inner Game of Golf and The Inner Game of Tennis. And what he said was that there's a person A in everyone's life. There's a person A and a person B. Especially when
Mm-hmm.
his use of it was with reference to a tennis stroke,
Mm-hmm.
and your person B is your current state of reality, and the person
Mm-hmm.
A is your vision of that perfect stroke, or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is. And the coach's job is to actually ensure that that person B to person A transition happens, so the person is able to
Mm-hmm.
kind of meet with what's going on in their mind with the outcome that they want to kind of get to. And
Yeah.
that was pretty. Is there any topic that you wouldn't talk about?
No.
No, so you talk about anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's so there's this whole thing about people call themselves life coaches, career coaches. There's all kinds of coaches, right? Um, the person is the same. I don't know how somebody can leave their personal person at home and bring the work person to work,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, so it's all intertwined. It's all eventually you're the
Yeah.
same person.
Yeah.
You've got stresses at home. You'll bring them to work.
Yeah.
You'll be, people who work for you. You might just be abrupt with them. You might take out your frustrations on them. I remember at work, if I ever came into work and I wasn't looking happy and smiling, my team would be. Someone will walk in and ask me what's
क्या
wrong
हो गया?
because they're watching your body language. They're watching how you're responding, how you're reacting, what are you upset about. um, so it's very difficult to make that sort of split into, okay, now I'm at work, let me leave the home person behind.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I.
so I had a very very senior colleague, sorry, and I tell this to a lot of people I coach because I saw this in so I had a very very senior colleague, was a board member in my company, and was brilliant at his work, but couldn't just manage relationships with people. All he wanted was get the job done. This is what we have to do. And so we were doing this internal meeting, and his counterpart in another sort of area of different business was the backslapping, joking, fun kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he was going on with his guys, and they were laughing loudly and drinking beers and doing all this
Yeah.
stuff. And our sort of vertical business head, who had his arms folded like this, he had a scowl on his face, which very clearly said, "Don't come anywhere near me."
Right.
So the rest of us said, "Well, stay away. There's no point having this, don't even try." 3 years later, um, he was back in India for another business trip, and 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And I see this transformation in him. It was like he was connecting with people and he was reaching out and talking. And so, post the events and the 3-4 days of meetings, we were doing, like, he was leaving that night, and then we were doing these drinks before he left. And I asked him what changed.
Yeah.
And he said, well, the management and the rest of the board saw this gap in my personality. And I really, as a human being, I don't like people. I don't like interacting with people.
Being honest, man.
He wouldn't have said this to me 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm very sure about that,
Yeah.
right? He'd have probably chewed my head off if I wouldn't have asked him the question.
Got it. He would be
First
like too
place,
unapproachable
right?
to you, Nasa.
No way. And so they got him a coach. And he says, because of the way I was, not just at work, even at home, my marriage was falling apart and things were becoming really difficult. And when they got him a coach, so he gave me the example of what used to happen in his, when he left, if he had a bad day at work. So the coach asked him, how are you going to solve this? Because what do you want to do about it if you want to do something? And so he worked out a plan, and he said, okay, if I have a bad day at work, my secretary is going to call my wife and let her know that I've had a bad day at work. So when I get home, she's not going to talk to me. I'll go into my den, I'll throw stuff around, I'll yell, scream, whatever, get all my frustration out. And then I'll come out and I'll sit with her and say, okay, how was your day? If she's had a bad day at home or in general, she would call my secretary and say, I've had a terrible day. So when I get home, I will sit down with her and say, hey, honey, tell me what happened. How was your day? Oh, it was terrible. The dog did this and whatever, whatever, whatever. He says that allowed me to rebuild that. So it's all about understanding your moods and your emotions and everything else. And he says, I wouldn't have figured it out on my own without my conversations with the coach. And then, so that's how I've changed with you guys. That's how I'm talking to you. That's how I'm having this conversation. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to the airport. I'm going to sit on the plane. It's a 10-hour flight.
Right.
I don't want to talk to the stewardess. I will turn on that TV. I don't care what's playing because I'm not watching it. 5 days of being in India, meeting clients, doing this, doing that, all this touchy feeling thing I have to get out of my system.
Right.
I don't want the food. I don't want to be disturbed. I do not want another human being talking to me. At the end of 10 hours, I would have got it out of my system. I'm back to normal.
Right. That's amazing. I think, I think that's super, like in terms of your analogy of separating, like there's no separation between the person and the professional. I think this is a perfect one because as you were talking, I was like, there is no way that you could stop this individual from having a personal realization. If you'd have if you're in that coaching session and you're having a conversation with this individual, and then suddenly he says, well, I need to figure out a way I can coordinate venting with my wife because currently like she's frustrated and I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
If you don't take that on, then that transformation would probably not happen. And then
correct. And if his boss had told him or somebody else had told him, hey, you know what, we want you to behave better with people. We want you to, I'm going to listen in 1 year and take it out through the other because it's not, I haven't understood why it's important yet.
Right. Also, have you found certain people get more results from coaching than others?
Yeah. So again, from my experience, people who are more committed to the process will see quicker results. And what I tell them upfront is, I do not have a magic wand. You do.
Yeah.
So it's really up to you. You can take forever to bring about the change, or you can actually start doing whatever you're telling me you're going to do. So sometimes what happens is you take something like procrastination. I procrastinate, or I don't work out enough. I know I need to, exercise every morning. It makes me feel good. I just don't wake up.
Yeah.
I don't wake up because I'm watching, Netflix till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And since I don't wake up in time, I don't have time to exercise. I barely grab breakfast and I will rush to work. And so you go into the, okay, so what do you want to do about it kind of thing? Well, now, you know what? I'm going to stop watching Netflix and except 2 days in the week. And I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to go for a run for an hour and, whatever. So you have the conversation. Great, wonderful. This is your action. If this is what you want to do. And then 2 weeks later, when you have the next conversation. So I ask you, I hope you're running now because you said you're going to. No, not really, because I got caught up in this really interesting series, and I'll finish this, and then I'm definitely going to get back to running.
Right.
And so another 2 weeks go by, and then it's the same thing. Oh, I was really rushed at work, and there was so much to do. I just don't get the time to exercise, and I'm eating junk food, and it's like I know it's not good for me. I know it's not healthy, but. What do? I don't have a choice. So at some point, I'm going to say, well, are you sure you still want to pursue this goal?
Yeah.
Because you don't seem to be wanting to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not important. Maybe it's just good to eat junk food, watch Netflix till 3 in the morning, not exercise, and go to work in that condition. That's okay if that's what makes you happy.
Right.
And most people turn around and say, no, 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 that doesn't make me happy. It makes me unhappy.
Right.
So what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And the people who act on whatever they say they're going to do see results much quicker than the ones who will just keep pushing back. It's the inertia. It's like, I'll get around to it eventually. And then at times, if I find that they're just not making an effort, I'll probably say, do you really want to be coached? Because maybe you don't. Maybe it's a fad. Maybe somebody told you, hey, you know what, just go to a coach and they'll kind of
Sort you out.
do this and your life will change.
Yeah.
And you will be sorted.
Yeah, because you have a lot of people kind of selling that. You have a lot of people saying, even our whole guru system or like, Jyotish or whatever, like that's what we have in terms of traditional forms of coaching. A lot of people begin to expect like quick results, like expedient results basically, and that might not actually happen.
Correct.
And
Correct. So sometimes I have people saying, I thought this will happen much quicker. Why isn't it happening quicker?
yeah.
Well, the answer is really with you, right? You want to make it happen quicker, you got to do something. I'm not going to come there and do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that leads to this whole, because it does require change, and change requires effort. And so suddenly people start to realize this is not easy. This is a tough one. I'm asking myself to be someone else. For the past 20 years, I've been conditioned to be this way. Ever since childhood, this is how I was.
Yeah.
I grew up this way. All my friends, family, everybody tells me, hey, Pradeep, you're a really short-tempered guy. You're really this. I believe that's what I am. And it can't change.
Yeah.
I'm never going to change.
Yeah, the whole main to aisa hi hu. Yeah, I'm like that, man. That's who I am. There's don't expect me to change. And
correct.
And then you have that whole thing.
But I want to be happy. But I want people to like me. But I want all of the other stuff.
Yeah, it's a huge conflict for me also personally, because if like I know that you have to, like for me it's like I have a few things that I want to change. So first of all, I really benefited. I make goals and all the time, right? So I have my goals, 6-month vision, everything. And there's this program that Jordan Peterson actually put out. So Jordan Peterson's all over YouTube. You can find him anywhere. And he speaks a lot on like basically how to, he's a psychologist who's a self-help guy. And he's come up with this very simple reflective system online where you go to his website and you can actually, it's a bunch of questions, right? Like, what do you want? What is the cost of not getting what you want? Like a whole bunch of reflective questions. It's super nice. And I fill that out and I realize that there are certain goals that I have to get to. And aligned to that, I have to do some things every day in order to get to that. But the level of inertia that is there within you, like at least within me, is so high. And, like I need to constantly talk to myself, say, you know what, man, do this. You need to do this. And I would only imagine that it's like that for me at this age. If you meet an executive who is 50 or 55, I don't know if you have a lot of those conversations. But if you do, I would imagine that being very difficult to get them to accept that they have to change.
They are, in part because as the years go by, their beliefs start to become hardened and they just kind of bake, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to a senior position and you don't want to accept the fact that you could be wrong.
Yeah.
That you need to change. It's like the rest of the world needs to change for me because of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change for these guys because, hey, you know what? I got through life, right? I'm 50 years old now. I'm so successful. I must be doing everything right. So there's something wrong with you guys. There's something wrong, with the board of my company if they're telling me that they think that I need to change this behavior.
Right.
When I first got a coach, long time ago, um, and my coach was really, it was on the phone. It wasn't even a video call. I don't like coaching, honestly. If it hadn't been COVID, all my coaching is in person because I want to get that chemistry. I want to get that
Yeah.
connection with whoever I'm coaching. This was just a voice call, and I was in a different country, and she's calling me from India and saying, I'm going to be your coach and whatever. And I stalled the first four conversations with her. I was being a jerk
Yeah.
simply because I said, why do these guys want to get me a coach? What's wrong with
Hmm.
me? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm doing so well. My career is going fine. Business is good. Why would they want someone to coach me?
Right.
Coaching is for people who have problems, people who, are not
Yeah.
successful. Not me. Doesn't apply to me. So I stalled. I stalled for conversations. I was just being completely, as we went through our conversations, by the time the assignment ended,
Yeah.
my question to her was, how do I become a coach?
Right.
Because I started to understand the process and I started to understand what she was doing with me. And that it wasn't so in a lot of companies where I get corporate assignments and I'm working, this is the first thought that comes into the minds of these senior people. What
Hmm.
is wrong with me? They don't see this as, and most times when you companies get invest in getting someone coach, they actually see potential.
Yeah.
They see that person moving up. They think there's a couple of gaps in what they need to fix to get to that next level.
Right.
And all they want is for this person to become aware of those, and take some action with regard to that.
Right.
But nobody seems to give it a positive twist. It's always like, until you start talking to them. And then as you go through conversations, they start to have that realization, hey, this is not about pointing fingers at me, or this is not about uh, you know, being critical of who I am or how I work or anything like that. It's actually about developing me as somebody for the future. And then the attitude changes.
Yes. Yeah. I can imagine because a lot of it also comes from the what our experience of uh, authority and you know situations where we're compelled to change are right. Like for example, in our
Yeah.
society, um, you're compelled to change in at that level when you're in school if you're sent to the principal's office, or
Yeah.
if you grow up and like your parents kind of chastise you into changing. So the whole
Yeah.
frame of like having someone to facilitate change is going to be negative. Just that, and leave the like the whole aspect of actually change is hard is a completely different ball game. And then like if you compound those two, I can imagine like a lot of people would be averse to it, especially if it's not their choice in the first place.
True. Also, I think a lot of things shape the way you think and the way you behave. Right? It's right from childhood. It's right your relationship with your parents, your school, your teachers. Um, there is a concept of limiting self beliefs,
Hmm.
and a lot of people grow up believing that they are a certain way,
Yeah.
and that makes them it actually, and beliefs need not be facts.
Hmm.
But if as a kid my parent told me, behave yourself, you never behave yourself, you keep doing this, I've told you so many times, why aren't you, it sort of starts to sink into me. And then my teacher tells me the same thing, and friends and family start telling me the same thing. And so it just keeps growing on me until I start to believe that that's who I am.
Right.
And that belief could limit my growth and development as a person, because that belief need not be true.
Yeah.
It's what's been heaped on you by everyone. So a lot of conversations when I have with young people, eventually it comes down to parents. It comes down to how they've been treated in childhood, how, the parents' expectations, the pressure. You're not good enough. Why aren't you doing better? Look at
Hmm.
so and so. They got, 99.9%, and you just got 97. You're really stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I carry through life. I start to, it's really hard to then break out of that. I'm always trying to live up to that expectation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There are so sorry to interrupt you, but there are so many individuals I know that have gone to engineering school because of that same
yeah,
experience. Like
yeah,
they've gone and they've done engineering, like chemistry, and then they've gone and done their MBA. It makes no sense. And that whole phenomena at a national level is because I feel a lot of it is because of people not being able to kind of understand or get an understanding of what they are good at, and they just end up saying, okay, you know what, you think I'm this way, I'll do it.
yeah. Or you are not given the freedom to pursue whatever you want to pursue. Maybe for economic reasons, you just have to do what they tell you to do because,
Hmm.
I can't go pursue a course in photography. I want to be a photographer. Photographer? What kind of profession is that?
Yeah.
You won't earn enough. I'm not funding you to go to New York to study photography. You want to go study engineering or medicine? Yeah, I'll do it.
You're right.
So there's all of that, and it starts sort of telling on you, and then you end up in a job where you're unhappy, and that's not what you want to do, and you don't love doing it, and it just frustrates you, and then you start to take it out on people around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And with reference to usually why people approach you, I know that we kind of touched upon that in the start, but you obviously wanted to give me some context about what coaching is. Uh, but what are some common topics that people kind of approach you for?
um, Doing better in their careers, managing, relationships at work, um, managing relationships just in general with their friends, with their parents, with work colleagues, um, low self-esteem. So I just am not good enough. I don't know why. I've studied all this stuff. I'm like I know it all, and I don't seem to be successful enough.
Hmm.
So it's really subjects like that where people are unhappy about the situation they're in. They want to change that situation. They want to be happier, whatever happy means for them. Sometimes it's about just no clarity on what their priorities are.
Right.
So I do like a visioning exercise with
Hmm.
them somewhere in the course of the sort of conversation, which, okay, 30 years from now, where are you? Let's just play out the whole thing.
That's a super important
And
conversation to have.
a lot of people then start to get clarity around where do they want to be 30 years from
Yeah.
now. When I'm 60, this is where I'll be, and whatever that situation is, and this is how. And so, what will people be saying about you? What
Yeah.
do they like about you?
Yeah.
Uh, what do they admire about you? How do they see you develop as a person? How do they feel you are in your career?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people walk away from that with complete clarity. They know the house they're going to live in, what it looks like, what the roof is, who's around, who the people who really matter in their lives. Um, and then when you've done that visioning, you can show the person what the long term journey
Yeah.
is. And then you can keep referring to it saying, you remember, this is where you thought you'd be 30 years from now. What do you think you need to do in the next 1 year to start that journey?
Right.
and they start to get that clarity around where they want to go.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think when you said you do that visioning and goal setting exercise, I was thinking to myself that is so important for anyone to have. I think just that one conversation can especially sort you out if someone's confused, which a lot of people are, in their early 20s, mid 20s, when
Yeah.
they're just starting out, like what they'd want, how they want to kind of structure their career, because no one really teaches that in college. No one, like, it's very, like you mentioned earlier in the
No.
conversation, there's very hard, like it's very hard to get examples of that in your own community. Supposing if
Yeah.
someone wants to be a photographer, and there's no photographer around you, it's very hard to actually approach someone and have a conversation with them unless that's part of your goal. But it's never going to be part
Yeah.
of your goal if there's no example around you. So you're in a weird catch 22 kind of
Correct.
situation. And having,
Also, for a lot of people, it's I don't know what I want.
hmm, yeah,
I'm just stuck. I don't know what I want. I'm not happy,
yeah,
and I don't know what I want.
yeah,
Um, so that's a little bit about uncovering them and figuring out until they start to understand what is it that they really want,
yeah,
and then you start to help them map the journey and okay, if this is what you really want, how are you going to go about it? What do you
yeah,
need to do? Who do you need to be? I need to be more patient. I
yeah,
need to study more. I need to whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, at those points in time, I found like sage advice. Like at that time is when I would probably want some sage advice. Like there are certain inflection points in my career, right? Where supposing if I were to go back when I was like 20, 22, I remember I approached one of my mentors, and I know that he was not a coach, he was a mentor. And at that time, like, I was stuck. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do next, and I wasn't really taking any large steps to get wherever, right? So he's asked him, so what do you think I should do? And he told me, well, why don't you just do a few projects? Like, just, it doesn't matter, do a few short projects for 3 months each. Just start doing something, and don't worry about the results. Just that's it. Because I respected that individual a lot, I looked up to him, and I didn't really have to, think through or analyze what he said.
mhm.
I just needed to do.
Yeah.
And in that particular situation, that wasn't like terrible advice. It wasn't telling me what to do. It's just saying do projects.
Hmm.
And that's when I really, like, I benefited a lot from that process. But it was something which was, that individual was outside my social circles. I didn't know that person until I went to college, things like that. So definitely. Also, it's been an hour. So
Yeah.
let me know if,
We can wind up. We can wind up in, let's say, I don't know, 5 minutes.
sounds good. Sounds good. Uh,
Um, so just to refer to what you're saying, one of the techniques we use when coaching it to answer that point is I'd probably say or ask you, who do you think your role model or role models are?
hmm,
And could be dead, alive, somebody you know, doesn't matter,
yeah.
right? Say, oh, well, I really look up to so and so. I really admire this person. And what do you admire about this person? So I admire the following things about this person. So, Shivam, if you were sitting down now and having a conversation with this person, what's the question you would ask him or her?
Right.
Oh, this is what I'd ask him or her, whatever. And what do you think they would say?
Hmm.
And that's when you start to, oh, I think that, this person would say this to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you agree with that thinking? Do you, considering you admire this person so much and you really value this or whatever, um, yeah, I think the advice this person is giving me makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what do you want to do? I think I'll follow that advice.
Right. Yeah. So what trips me up about that though is that my what they'd say. First of all, what you just suggested, I actually, weirdly enough, I read it in a book. I read it in
Okay.
up, but in a very weird, like it's way like what you said was very practical. It's amazing. What I read in the book was super bizarre. Let me tell you about that. It was in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and he
Mm-hmm.
suggested that you read biographies of famous people,
Mm-hmm.
like basically study all the people that you admire like crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
then once you've kind of gotten a vision of them as a person, when you're
Mm-hmm.
making a decision, picture a round table with all of their heads talking. So picture that you're you're having a conversation with all of them, deliberating upon your decision, and sooner or
Mm.
later you will feel their points of view come across through the discussion itself. And that was like pretty crazy. So I think that's freaking amazing.
Well, it's not very different from what I do. So sometimes at work, people say, "Well, I want to be a better leader,"
Yeah,
um, and so then the question would be, is there anyone you know who you think is a good leader,
yeah,
or anyone you know of? And yeah, my previous boss was a great leader. What are the qualities that your previous boss had? He was da da da. He was empathetic. He was smart. He was confident. Whatever, right? Uh, so if you write all those qualities down, and then on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the best and zero being like least satisfied or whatever, where would you rank yourself on each of these qualities? Oh, so I'm a 4 on this, and I'm a 7 on this, and I'm a 6 on this, or whatever. Which are the ones that you think that you really could work on to improve your scores?
right.
I could do this.
Hmm.
And how are you going to do this? And how are you going to remind yourself to do it?
Yeah,
So there's different ways to get at the
yeah. And
same
what you're
thing.
saying makes it very actionable. Like it's very like
It's got to be actionable. So every conversation will end with, what do you want to do? So there's really two things that every conversation will end with: what do you want to do, and very specific action points, and when will you start this, and by when, and how will you know that you're doing it.
right.
And the second one is, what have you learned about yourself today?
Hmm.
And people sometimes come up with the most sort of, it's like an aha moment for them.
Yeah, yeah. Because most people don't
So
like
yeah.
think about what they've learned about. Like it's a very meta thing to do. Like it's very like large
Correct.
level, higher level
Correct.
kind of thing to do. So that's for sure. Like I can see a lot of people kind of benefiting from that. Is there anything
Mhm.
else that you would like to add, like that you feel like?
No, unless you have a question for me, I'm good.
I have like I literally have like 100 questions for you. So I think just in but in with reference to I think our time, uh, since I said 1 hour and I don't know how much for like you want to stretch it. I think let's put a pause for now, unless you
Sure.
want to
Yeah.
go on for a few more minutes.
No, I
Okay,
mean,
let's end right
like,
now.
I'm happy to.
So how do like
Okay.
would you be open to people reaching out to you and asking you for a coaching session?
So I have a web page that's Atman, Aatman, so atman.life.
Right.
And so there's a little contact form in there. Somebody can mail me and whatever. And what I generally do is I will send them a little questionnaire to understand why they believe they want to be coached.
Right.
Um, it's a very simple 6-7 question thing. Um, and then I probably will do a chemistry conversation,
Hmm.
just a hello, get to know the other person, for the other person to get to know me, And if I believe that at the end of that conversation that I can make a difference to this person in terms of whatever they want to do, and this person believes that I could be the right coach for them, then we kick it off.
Sounds good.
So that's how it works.
So I will definitely. What I'll do is I will link. I will link my. I will link your account, your email.
Sure.
Sorry, what am I saying?
Yeah.
I will link your website on the
Webpage, yeah.
description, and I will also put that out on whatever media that I am putting out this conversation, so they know where to reach you at every point in time. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, Pradeep. It was awesome. I'm just going to stop
Thank
recording
you.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.